about it. Share communication, making preparation, building a foundation. Let's talk about it. Setting up our future, bringing ourselves closer, falling in love deeper. Let's talk about it. Since we have this moment together, relationships grow better with Marriage Talk.
Hey, well, praise the Lord and welcome to this session of Marriage Talk. We trust that we have been a blessing to you in sessions in the past, and today my lovely bride and I have something special for you. I am, by the way, Kim Brown, and this is my lovely bride, Valerie. We have been blessed for over 3 decades to be able to walk together in marriage, and just grateful for what God has done through us and how he allows us the privilege of being able to touch your life. And so we thank you for trusting us enough to give us the opportunity today to be able to help disciple you in your marriage journey. Today we're going to spend time. It's an interesting subject, and when you hear it, it's so interesting that this would be a marriage topic. Friend or foe? Friend or foe? Jealousy among marriage, especially marriage in leadership. And Valerie, Elder, one of the things that we've done, our research has revealed that feelings of jealousy, fear of being replaced, suspicion, trouble believing their partner, worry how their mate's previous sexual experiences compare to theirs, and fear, afraid of another relationship breakup, predict basically nearly 93% accuracy among couples with high versus low quality relationships. So basically, fear erodes
If you have any
confidence.
of these,
Absolutely.
okay.
Fear erodes confidence. It sets the couple up to interpret, and I love this statement, to interpret benign behaviors in cancerous ways.
So we're saying
That
a behavior that really shouldn't be growing and festering
it's
can
benign.
become
I
that.
think-
Well, that's what
I-
benign means.
Right.
that-
I think it's really saying that we can, if we don't deal with jealousy properly, and I think one of the challenges of the way we're going to shape jealousy today is jealousy is not limited by our definition today of I'm afraid she's going to have a boyfriend or I'm afraid he's going to have an affair. It's so much more than that. Professionally, career-wise,
Correct. Absolutely.
gifting,
There you go.
just jealous. I think
Correct.
typically when we have explored jealousy, or when most people explore jealousy in marriage, they default to relationships outside of the marital relationship. So i.e., a coworker liking my wife, or me and somebody, jealousy from that lens, or someone giving me a compliment. I think there's so much more to jealousy
yeah.
than just
Absolutely.
gender-specific, traditional perspectives of jealousy. And I think that's what it was trying to help us to see, especially when people are in leadership, so.
Who's
And
going to be the boss?
well, I think who's going to be the boss, and then it becomes even sometimes more aggravated. I know with us, we work now in the same atmosphere, and we're both in ministry.
Right.
So that can potentially breed a different kind of jealousy, or kind.
absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
see this all the time when husband and wife are both preachers.
That's where it shows a lot.
It shows up a lot. And we see this in ministry so many times because
One is perceived to be the better preacher.
absolutely. When the reality is most of the time it's really style driven.
That's correct.
And we've been, over the last several years of our marriage, I know one of the things we've really battled through is the difference between teaching and preaching. And I don't want us to get off assignment today, but I think too many times, especially in ministry leadership marriages, we don't understand that preaching is simply me trying to change your behavior in relationship to God.
Yes.
Style has nothing to do with that. And teaching is me trying to transfer knowledge. So the difference between teaching and preaching is that rather than style. But we've made it sometimes style.
Well, I think we make it style because we're looking for the physical manifestation of the standing up, shouting, woo, talking back to you.
Right.
And we equate that to be the better preacher.
Right.
Because that's what feeds people. And people will walk out and say, oh, that was a great sermon.
Well, you're driven by external stimuli.
Yeah, but what did he preach about? I don't know. Well, then you've missed the whole point. But I was looking at it from a different perspective. I agree with that. But I was looking at it from a perspective of fighting for the platform. The jealousy of who's going to preach this Sunday.
Right.
You know, you preached last Sunday, it's my turn.
Right.
When, that becomes the jealousy or the conflict.
I agree. So how do we then address that for if there's a ministry couple that's watching today?
Or even if it's not a ministry couple, even if it's, again, in marriage. Who makes this decision? Who makes that decision?
Right.
You made that decision last time. Well, that's why I use the adage, who's the boss?
Right.
Because I think in any of those situations, whether you're in ministry, whether you work together, or whether it's just husband, wife in a household, I think the struggle of jealousy or leadership goes back to who is the one that gets to make the decision, who's getting the press. Who's getting the accolades? Who's being taken for granted? All those are the things that breed the jealousy, and I think it can carry over into any of those aspects. Because I don't want anyone who's watching today to think, oh, I'm not married or I'm not in ministry or it doesn't apply to me. I'm saying it applies if you just simply husband and wife in the household, or it can go across the board and manifest in those ways.
And I think now going back to what you said, the benign to cancer.
Correct.
I remember. Last time I had my colonoscopy, I had, what do you call it? Polyps. But they were benign.
Right.
But the doctor said if he didn't remove them, they had the potential to become cancerous. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I think you got to do sometimes when you're looking at jealousy is those benign moments, you've got to at least be sensitive to them, address them.
But you got to know they're there.
Right.
You would have never known they were there had you not had
a colonoscopy.
Absolutely.
So if you don't, talk, communicate?
I don't know. How do you know those benign behaviors are there?
Well, let's use...
Or that you're jealous, and I think that's the first question. Are you jealous?
Right. Let's play it out using that metaphor, because I love metaphors. What you do is a checkup. I mean, because if I don't do a checkup, you're right, I might not know it's there. But because the colonoscopy was not done because I had polyps. The colonoscopy was done because I know there's the potential for that to take place. So they remind you what you need to do is be proactive. Mm-hmm. So that's the word. Maybe in marriage, what we got to start to do is be proactive. And the way you be proactive is you just ask the question. Do some self-study. Are there moments when you can see yourself starting to lean towards being jealous of your spouse?
I think it's hard to do self-study. I think we say that.
Right.
I think the average person is not honest with themselves. And so, because you're still operating or thinking from your own perspective,
right.
Just like you had to go to a doctor to
right.
tell you had the polyps. I think when you do your self-assessment, it needs to have someone else, I think you always call a credible other, to also weigh in on your self-examination,
right.
so that you
right.
can, come up with
because I guess there could be times in marriage where you're operating from a posture of jealousy, mm-hmm. And not realize it. Because I think, and I dare say this, I think jealousy plays out differently. And I'll use the example through the lens of a man.
Okay.
Men, we say this all the time. We want a strong woman. But I think men many times have a problem with strong women, and they articulate it through language that doesn't speak truthfully to the fact that you really might be jealous of this person. So, for instance, I can only imagine, we use ministry, but the reality is you don't like the platform.
No.
But I know myself well enough to know I don't know if I could really process effectively being married to someone that was known as the platform person.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely
And that
not.
would be,
Which is why it works for us, because I don't want the platform.
Absolutely.
But I think for those couples where they
Who do,
both
you
want
got
the
to
platform,
really acknowledge
I
that.
know they have issues.
You got to. And you got to acknowledge that, though. See,
Yeah.
because it's like any other thing. Until you acknowledge it, you can't
Correct.
even address it.
That's right.
Now, whether or not you're right, whether or not we go get credible other outside to say, look, you do have a problem with this.
Right.
But
Or if you're working together, because again, I don't want to stay specific to ministry, but even if you work together outside of ministry, corporate America, it's the same thing. Are you jealous of your spouse
Right.
in terms of the role that they play or what they bring to the business?
Right, absolutely. And I think I can only speak from my vantage point. I think the jealousy, and this years ago, when we first got married, you practicing CPA, you hanging out with doctors, lawyers,
Indian
surgeons.
chiefs.
Yeah. And, I'm just working at the shipyard. I think there
But
was...
see, even in your statement, I was just...
Right, that's where I was going to go. I think that some of my jealousy, in quotation marks, was bred by low self-esteem. Because you're right. What made my job
Just. Right.
until one day you said to me, I don't know if you remember this, because I just told you I was just intimidated. I was making all these excuses. And you said to me, yeah, but when the surgeon needs somebody to come fix his cabinet or fix his door, they're going to call you.
Right.
So that doesn't mean you don't have value.
Correct.
So maybe one of the ways that we start to help people to deal with their jealous tendencies is to make sure you determine your own self-worth.
Correct.
You always say this, and it has proven true over 32 years. She doesn't have any self-esteem issues. I do. Unresolved or unchecked self-esteem issues can make jealousy more aggressive. And that's back to that benign becoming cancerous.
Correct.
It can make benign situations become cancerous because, whether we like it or not, any preacher that tells you they don't live for the applause
Platform preachers.
they're not being honest with
No,
themselves.
they're not.
They're not being honest with
No,
themselves.
they're not.
Now, I would not have said that years ago.
Well, but it takes that skill. And that's what we talk about again. Your strength is your weakness. Because it
That's what
takes
wants you
someone
to-
who craves that
To
platform.
want to have the microphone.
That is correct.
Absolutely.
That is correct.
So you're right. Your greatest strength is also potentially your greatest vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And so
But you got to be honest about that.
Right. I just want to make sure in this first part of the session that we don't limit jealousy to this guy hit on my wife the other night and I'm jealous.
Oh, yeah,
or this
absolutely
lady
not.
hit on my husband the other day and I'm jealous.
Right.
Jealousy is so much bigger than that. And it turns us friends or foe.
That's correct.
And so in the second part of the session, we're going to go a little bit deeper to help us to understand this whole friend or foe piece and help to redefine what jealousy is.
That's
because
correct.
it's so much bigger. Look, we've got a tremendous amount of content and availability to you, opportunities for you to grow, not just grow in marriage, but to grow in ministry, to grow in your discipling of your destiny in call and assignment on the earth. And we want to show you just some things that KW Brown Ministries can do. Stay tuned.
For 2 years, KW Brown Ministries has been working tirelessly to give you exactly what you need. You've asked for it. Tools for hope, tools for information, tools for inspiration. Stay tuned for October 9th, 2022.
Well, welcome back to part 2 of today's session. In the first part, we began to deal with elder friend or foe. That is the subject for today. And it's really revolving around this whole question about jealousy. Mm-hmm. And so in the first session, or the first part of this session, we kind of redefined what jealousy is and didn't limit it to the box of somebody being concerned about just extramarital affairs or those kind of, or extramarital or extra relational affairs, but that it's so much more. It can be career. I thought about this as well. I've seen jealousy happen. There's no issue with extramarital relationships, but say for instance, one person becomes very health conscious and they lose weight, they get in shape, and now they start to feel better about themselves. No intent, nothing going on, but they working out now and things like that, and it starts to show in their appearance. Mm-hmm. And the other person becomes jealous of this reinvented, new styling person. And once again, we talked about benign into cancer. Mm-hmm. And so they automatically start to assume they must be trying to get somebody's attention, or there must be somebody out there that they're trying to improve the way they look for, when the reality is it could have genuinely been the person is just trying to be more health conscious. Maybe they know they've got some heart, any of those kind of things.
Yeah, and I think it becomes cancerous when they don't recognize or acknowledge that that's why they're upset with the other partner. They start to act out just like kids. I mean, rather than saying, you look good, which is a compliment, you don't say that, but you act out and start to nitpick and belittle. That's correct.
Like the person just lost 10 pounds, and all you lost is 10 pounds,
right?
Exactly. Which is really a product of the jealousy.
That's correct.
So here's one of the questions we need to ask as you're watching this session.
Okay.
Are you the jealous spouse? And if so, why are you jealous? So identifying why you're jealous is the next step. It's like anything else. Until you identify the root cause, you can never address the problem. If you don't address the root cause, all you're doing is addressing symptoms.
And again, I know we're asking the question, are you jealous? I don't think the jealous person will say I'm jealous.
Right.
Because they may even be deceiving themselves.
Right.
Because it's rare that someone says they're jealous. I mean, it's just like two girls. I mean, you jealous of them. The person that you're jealous of have no clue that you're jealous.
Right, but we always try to articulate it through a lens that doesn't justify jealousy.
Correct. That's where I was going. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So while that's a great question, I don't know if it's one that can be answered. I mean, because
it can't be answered alone. I think, like you said, you might need somebody. Your spouse can answer that for you.
Well, I don't know if your spouse can, because all your spouse sees is the nitpicking. And you wonder what's the root cause. Right. And you might not ever know that it's because I lost, 10, 20 pounds.
Right.
So therein lies the problem with trying to answer the question whether or not you're jealous.
Right. Right. So I think that there are some things, though, that we can do to help solidify the framework or the mentality to alleviate, hopefully, some jealousy. And one of them is to stop comparing yourself.
Okay.
I think whether it's in marriage.
So if you find yourself always comparing yourself to
that's
somebody,
a sign that you could be jealous, because you're trying to measure yourself by them.
Right.
Whether it's in career, whether it's physical, whether it's intellect. Mm-hmm. Because the truth be told, in every relationship, whether you want to hear this today, I hope I don't mess you up. In every relationship, there is going to be someone that's smarter than the other person.
In some aspect.
Right.
I mean, so
not
you might be smart. Right.
In this area.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But I think until you can come to grips with that.
Right.
Or let's not even say smarter, more efficient and effective at that.
Correct.
Than you are.
Yeah.
But,
and it might be from natural skill set. You're a swimmer, I'm not a swimmer. Or it may be, training, experience, academics. I mean, a
How
whole
your
host of
mind
things.
works.
That's correct.
All of the above.
Absolutely.
So one of the things you got to do is to stop comparing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But then as a B portion to that, I think the other piece is that also can help you to see the value in the other person. Because now, it's different. I guess you alluded to it earlier. I don't even know how it is when both husband and wife are in ministry and both of them are platform driven. Both of them are very emotive in their presentation. You might need some more than this session. But when there are distinct differences,
Right.
Our style, I've never, this is not my issue. I love the platform, but I've never been intimidated to let you have some of the platform because our styles are different.
Right.
So the stimuli that I need to solidify my gifting is not the stimuli that you need to solidify your gifting.
Right.
So for us, we don't have to fight that battle. But I think that there's another side to that. That's the actual thing that helps me to be able to appreciate you, is that we are different. So when it comes to finances, when it comes to left brain, I stopped being jealous of that because, and I'm never going to be good at that. That's just not something I'm going to be good at. So I don't even try to compare myself there because that's not apples to apples the way I look at it. I think it becomes harder when it can potentially be apples to apples. If you were the emotive in your presentation like I am, and we present it the same way, I think then it becomes more difficult not to get in the comparison game. And so for me, I think you got to stop comparing yourself. Comparing yourself with others is one of the most basic causes of jealousy because I don't care who you are. We see it play out all the time. You can, right now, I could shift gears in here and we say, who was the best NBA player in history, Michael or LeBron? And the only way we get that dilemma is when we're comparing them. But we're not comparing apples and apples.
Right.
Because Michael Jordan played, first of all, in a different era. Michael Jordan played in college. LeBron didn't. So, it's very rare that it's apples to apples. And I think Satan doesn't let us see the whole apples and oranges.
Right. And that's where I was going to go. I was going to say it's rare that the person who is jealous, though, puts that in perspective.
Right.
They always justify that it's apples and apples.
Right.
And so therein again lies the problem.
Right.
Or once again, even when you use the example about two platform pastors who are married, they don't tend to compare about platforms. I mean, in other words, for an example,
they compare what, performance?
No, they may be jealous that someone has more platform time or gets more applause or whatever the stimuli is, but they'll never acknowledge or say that. They will just cause issues somewhere else in the relationship because they're acting out. Because either one, they don't recognize that that's the issue. They just got a problem with that person. The person trying to figure out, well, what in the world is that coming from? So they are not comparing that, if you follow what I'm saying.
Right.
Because we're trying to get to the root of.
But I think a lot of times, Elder, I agree with that. But I think also, because the acting out piece just hit me real hard when you said that. Because I think earlier you talked about like a child is acting out.
Right.
A child is argumentative in class. Well, that's not a behavior issue that's driven by that.
Has no problem with the students in the classroom. It's
That's
home.
something else going on.
That's correct.
So I think sometimes I'm not going to let us all get off that easy. I think that there's sometimes when we realize that we're acting out over here because we're in denial about what our root cause is. Now, we might be in denial with true ignorance, like you said, but I think that there's a lot of times we're in denial because we don't want to confront it. We are aware.
Okay.
That might not be the vast majority of time, but I think that there are times when people are really aware. You know why you're jealous.
So how do you fix that?
You got to come to grips with yourself. And the relationship has to be important enough for you to acknowledge it, accept it, and develop a plan to address it. Man, that's 3. I like my alliterations: acknowledge, address, and apply. So if you're not willing to adjust life and say, you know what, I agree. I think that there are times when it is, I'm really literally ignorant of this, and I'm still acting out. But until somebody points it out, now that still backs up that when they point it out, I can still try to justify that that's not true. Go back to your example with young girls. So you got the one girl, she got all the guys in high school and all this. You don't typically have any boyfriends right now. You got braces on and all this. And you say, I'm not jealous of her. But I'm not jealous of her. I just think she dresses, all this. Well, no, it's not you jealous of her. You acting out like I don't like her because of the way she dresses. No, you don't like her because she gets all the attention in school.
Right.
And you're not getting the attention.
Right.
So it's back to, I think, most of what we share in our sessions, until you start to really graduate to being open to doing some self-evaluation. And I agree, it's hard, but you don't become healed. I mean, it's no different than the alcoholic who says, I can quit whenever I want to. Okay, well, then you just said the same thing. You don't want to quit.
Right. That's correct.
Even if that's true.
Right.
So if you can quit whenever you want to, and you're talking about, I want to quit, I'm going to quit, well, you just don't want to quit now then.
Right.
So I think what you got to do is stop comparing yourself. And then the second piece is resolve trust issues.
That's big.
That's real big, because I don't think we typically talk a lot about jealousy having relationship with lack of trust.
Okay.
Sometimes when I hear, so let's go back to platform.
Okay.
In the back of my mind, if you're getting up on the platform and you're rah, 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 and the congregation is really rah, 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 why am I jealous of that? If there's not something in the back of me that's saying, if I keep letting this go, she gonna go down the street and start a church. Which then bleeds into trust.
Right.
Because if I got trust of you, and you've helped me to understand that, this in case people don't know, we've got 8 sites. And so you've helped me to deal with, just because people are over here at this site, we're one church.
Correct.
So you've got some rooted trust issues if you that calculated about, man, I don't want this person to do this because they get their platform growing. Well, if you grow your platform and we are really in genuine relationship, our platform has grown.
That is correct.
But if I've got a trust issue with you, I look at it like you growing your platform with an agenda. Right. That's what trust is.
That's right.
Lack of trust is agenda.
Ooh, Bishop, this is a lot. I don't know if we're going to be able to cover all
yeah,
this.
we're not going to be. We might have to do another session.
Yeah, this is good.
Because
I don't
this
rush
whole jealousy piece is so big.
Yes.
We know that today we started to awaken something even in you about jealousy. And stay tuned. There'll be some other sessions, because we want you and your spouse to be able to determine whether you're friend or foe. And we know today, hopefully by faith, we helped you with Marriage Talk.